Spider-Man 2. So this came out in 2004, directed by Sam Raimi, and Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Alfred Molina are starring in the film. Sequel to the original Spider-Man, and the plot summary, from IMDb, just to kind of catch people up in case they haven't seen the film. Peter Parker is beset with troubles in his failing personal life as he battles a brilliant scientist named Dr. Otto Octavius. It's a pretty kind of high-level summary there. But this is a second chapter in Peter Parker's life as Spider-Man in New York. And the reason why I picked this movie is, like I said, I've never lived in New York, unlike you. But this movie, which came out in 2004, I was graduating college at the time, about to then go off and have a job in kind of the real world. Like, I was not in New York, obviously in Los Angeles, but this also was what Peter Parker was going through too. Like, he was graduating from high school at that time, but going off into his own, having an apartment. And really for the first time too, I started thinking like, oh, what would it be like if I lived in New York? Like, both my sisters actually had moved there at the time. And I always envisioned it as sort of the lens of like kind of what Peter Parker had to deal with. Like, he was in a crappy little apartment, noisy neighbors, shared bathroom, like all the problems that come across in living in such a giant city. He's scraping together dead-end jobs, can't pay his rent, always getting fired and can't like figure it out, because there's all these things going on. Again, the city is hectic, and just all the struggles and tribulations that come from being in New York, hard landlords, hard bosses. But at the same time, he, throughout that film, remained kind of optimistic. And I was picturing, it would be a trouble, it'd be hard, it'd be annoying. But with all these things of being in a big city. But when I was picturing what I might be like to live in the city, to me, like that is sort of the life I feel like I would have had at that time as like a, young adult entering in such a big city. And I also think the interesting thing about this film too, is that it really, I think, captures too, like the size and the scale and the hectic side of that city, in the sense of, here is a superhero, like it's Spider-Man, and the city still, he can't, like the city still wins when it's him versus the city. I mean, there's a famous scene in that film where he's rushing to try to see a play that his girlfriend is in, and he gets there late and he can't get past like the doorman. So it's like, even in New York, like, you're Spider-Man, you're like a superhero with extra powers, but still the city still defeats him. But he can't get in. Like the bouncer's like, say sorry, like you're late. And I've gotten that experience a lot too, of being in New York, of like feeling like you're so small. And even someone as amazing as the Amazing Spider-Man still kind of feels small in the context of that city. To me, just really captures just the scope and the hecticness of New York, and how you are there and you feel like, you're just sort of caught up in it. But again, the film there's some dark tones to it, but it's a positive, kind of very colorful comic book film in that kind of sense. And I think that's also kind of what you feel like, you're caught up in it. You're stopped at every point, but there is still some like optimism and sort of fun in that a little bit. And I think that film, or at least to me, really captures what I kind of feel when I'm in New York. And if I were to live there, which, maybe someday I would, that is what I always was starting to picture. Like, oh, what would it kind of be like? Oh, I'd probably be kind of like Peter Parker in some crummy apartment somewhere, getting fired from all my jobs and like struggling to kind of make ends meet. So that's my number 3. Have you seen the film? And what are your thoughts on Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, I love that, Mr. Alex Peter Parker.
Exactly.
That's a really great pick. Of course, I've seen it. I haven't seen it in a while, and hearing you talk about it makes you want to go check it out again, because it's been a few years. But my memory of the movie is exactly what you said, this sort of delicate balance between the hecticness and the larger than life, almost like oppressive quality of the city. At the same time, the joy and the fun and the bright, because it's a very brightly colored movie from what I remember.
It is, yeah.
Like the cabs really shine and all of that, and sort of the buildings and everything. So it's sort of that balance. So it rings really true to what you said.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.